You know, farming has changed a lot in the last 50 years. And there's been so many game-changing technologies that really has fundamentally changed how we farm. You know, everything from robotic milkers to biotechnology. It's amazing all the changes that have happened in the last 50 years. But I think the biggest change in technology is something that folks have never really thought about. And I think that's the fact that, you know, back in the 1960s when Dad was 60, he would retire because his hips were shot. And so generally you just had one generation farming at a time and owning one generation owning everything. Nowadays when Dad hits 60 and he's got bad hips, he goes in and gets a hip replacement, or he gets heart surgery, or he gets a piece of cancer taken out of his body. And he's farming to his 80s or 90s. And if you want to farm until you're 92, you're my kind of guy. And I'm all about making everything happen like that. But I think it's the coolest thing you can possibly do is to die with your boots on. But suddenly we got a situation in most family farms where instead of there being one generation farming at a time, we got two, if not three generations farming together. And because this technology is so expensive that you need to farm, it does not make sense every 25 years to split up capital between siblings. You know, it's no longer a situation where, you know, a farm kid can go down and buy 100 acres down the road and be able to support a family. You need a lot of capital. You need to keep that capital together. So suddenly we've got a situation, you know, if you want to farm, you've got to farm with your siblings or cousins in order to have the economies of scale to be able to afford the technology that gives you that competitive advantage so you can actually farm cost effectively. So suddenly we've got a situation most family farms where you got three generations farming together. We got several siblings and cousins farming together. We got a situation most farms where there's too many chiefs and not enough Indians, right? Everybody's butting heads and pulling the farm in different directions. And we might joke about the context of the too many chiefs and not enough Indians. But it's no joke. And we haven't really thought through how it impacts farm profitability and how it impacts just family relationships. You think about it, you know, if you're constantly bickering, if everybody's butting heads and pulling the farm in different directions, half the decisions that should be getting made are not getting made, either because of pride, you know, everybody thinking they're smarter than another guy, and then always bickering, and you really not being able to make good decisions. Or half the time when you're getting along with your partners, you don't want to rock the boat. And so you see problems, but you see them in other areas of your partner's responsibility. You don't bring them up because you don't want to rock the boat. And so, you know, those issues don't get addressed or get addressed adequately until almost it's too late. And, you know, the decision to not make a decision is a decision in itself. And it has a profound effect on farm profitability. I estimate that at least half the decisions that should be getting made are not getting made adequately. And there's a lot of money slipping between the cracks. And more importantly, if you're constantly bickering on a day-to-day basis and you're constantly frustrated, I mean, how does family Christmas go? And more importantly, what's your mental health if you're going home unhappy every day? You know, it's a serious problem in agriculture we haven't really addressed, but it's a huge problem. My name's Andy Junkin, and I help stubborn farmers work better together. And for the last decade, what I've done is I've gotten everybody from butting heads and pulling the farm in different directions to get everybody on the same page and get everybody pulling the same direction. I've turned around the most dire situations, either related to farm debt or farm succession. And I've developed a completely different approach to farm management that, to my knowledge, nobody's ever thought about. And that's what this course is about. It's supposed to use the 7 different game-changing philosophies that you can actually apply behind the barn in a practical way on your own family operation. And I hope you really benefit from it. Because really, yes, these philosophies have turned around the most dire situations, but really they can take any farm from good to great. And that's what I'm hoping to explain to you is some simple ideas you can apply yourself on your own family farm so that you can improve the odds of your family still farming together in 30 years' time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you, over the next 7 days, I'm going to send you 7 different emails, and they consist of 10-minute videos. And what I encourage you to do is, and I'm honest about this, spend 10 minutes on the toilet that you usually waste on your phone. Why not sit and watch that video on your phone while you're using the toilet every morning? And underneath that video in that email, in the body of that email, I'll have a couple of questions for you to that are thought-provoking. And if you take the time to fill out those questions, there's only 2 or 3, and send that email back to me, and you do that consistently for the next 7 days, I'll sit down with you sometime next week, and we'll go through your answers, and we'll identify the topics that you really found interesting and you would actually really like to apply on your farm. And we'll talk about your farm's unique situation and the business culture that you currently have and the challenges you have. And we'll figure out a way to actually apply these concepts in a practical way on your farm. And hopefully we can improve the odds of your family still farming together in 30 years' time. My family came over in 1832 from Europe, and we settled in my hometown of Bobcaygeon, Ontario, Canada. And I actually currently live in Iowa, but the story of farming is the same for all across North America. We always think of John Deere tractors, we always think of Hereford cattle, or whatever your thoughts are about farming. But the thing is, farming has changed a lot since 1832. My ancestors got dropped off in the Canadian wilderness with just little more than what you would have in a garden shed for hand tools. And they were told to either make it or break it. They got dropped off in August. Can you imagine being dropped off in the Canadian wilderness and suddenly having to feed yourself for the winter? And, half the pioneers that came to the West, they went back to the cities or went back to Europe. They couldn't hack it if they actually made it out of the woods after a winter. We don't talk about the failure rate in agriculture, and we think of farming as driving fancy John Deere tractors. Or my dad, he's really into Hereford cattle, so he always thinks about Hereford cattle. But the truth was, back in 1832, we didn't even have Hereford cattle in North America. Agriculture's changed so much, but the one thing that's been consistent is that it's always been a challenge. For each generation, you have overwhelming challenges that you come across, where you have to make 1 + 1 = 4. Whether it's overcoming grasshoppers, whether it's overcoming drought, whether it's overcoming the 80s farm crisis. There's some people that make it and some people don't. And the ones that make it are the ones that become a better person as a result of the challenge that they have. I am certain that 10 years after my ancestors came over in 1832, by 1845, let's say, they were completely different individuals because they had a character change. And what's made my farm successful for so many 7 generations is the fact that we were stubborn. We were resilient, we were persistent. But what also caused my family to fail in the current generation is the fact that we were stubborn. My dad and I just simply couldn't make decisions together. And we butted head and we pulled the farm in different directions, and we got nowhere fast. And, these hippies in California, they say that the family farm is dead. Well, the truth is that there's never been a generation where the term family farm is more relevant. Because, yes, there's more farm ownership in the form of a corporation instead of sole proprietors. But that's because, you have 3-4 family members that have joint ownership and are sharing family assets in order to be able to successfully farm. It makes more sense to own a slice of the watermelon than own, the whole raisin. I mean, it's the same philosophy for, Steve Jobs wouldn't be Steve Jobs and create an apple if he tried to do it all on himself. Well, it's the same thing with farming, but you're trying to do it with your family. And the truth is, for our generation, the challenge of our times is that if you want to farm successfully, if you want to be able to pass over grandma's farm to your grandchildren, you got to turn working with family from weakness into strength. And the root problem on our family farms is the word stubborn. And we've got to turn stubborn from a bad word into a good word on the family farm. And that's what this course is all about, is 7 different game-changing philosophies of how you can turn the word stubborn from a bad thing into a good thing on your family farm. I really hope you benefit from it. My name's Andy Junkin. You take care and God bless.